almost 1 in 2 people who ever lived may have died of malaria. Many of the childhood diseases that we don't have today are thanks to one guy. In the 1800s, they were seriously worried about people giving birth to half human, half cow hybrids. The biggest disease that we've really ever faced is malaria. And malaria is one of those things that I think we sort of think of being as a problem for over there. It's a problem for elsewhere. It's a problem that, is big in some places in the world, like Africa and so on. But it's not a problem that really would affect us. I'm speaking to you from Ottawa, which is the coldest capital city in the world. And whenever I ask people about malaria in Ottawa, they always say, oh yeah, but it's too cold here, right? And the canal freezes every year. But if you go look at the canal, there's a plaque saying all the soldiers who died here of malaria digging this canal. And you think, well, there were mosquitoes spreading malaria in Ottawa, and where did they go? And this was a massive public health solution to a really, really long-standing problem. Malaria has killed, it's thought, over 50 billion people throughout history. That is a staggering number of people who've died. We very, very, very patiently, cautiously learn that we have to quarantine, or we have to, spray insecticide, or we have to treat people, or we have to use vaccines. And all of these tools are hard earned. Like, these took sometimes hundreds of years to be developed. Even understanding what a germ was, right? That was a really hard problem that people didn't believe. And every so often somebody would say, like, oh, it's little tiny creatures causing these diseases. And they would laugh them out of the room, saying there's obviously no way that's happening. People didn't know that malaria was spread by mosquitoes, for instance. They thought it was swampy vapors, because when you go to the swamp, you would get malaria. And that's certainly true, but that's because the mosquitoes are biting you. But the mosquitoes are kind of this invisible thing. Like, well, everybody gets bitten by mosquitoes. Of course that's happening. Why would I think about that? My disease hero. So there were a couple of sort of more famous people like Edward Jenner, who invented the first vaccine, or like Jimmy Carter, who recently died, but just is basically eradicating a disease today, guinea worm disease. But the one I think I would most like to have a dinner conversation with is a man called Morris Hilleman, who is not well known, but he was like the vaccine hero of the 20th century. Edward Jenner invented the first vaccine, Louis Pasteur invented the next two, and then one by one vaccines would sort of get developed. Morris Hilleman invented 8. And this guy was like a vaccine machine, and he would just make these vaccines. And he shunned publicity, so he didn't think that he should be a figurehead or anything. That's why we don't know him today, because he just didn't seek this fame and therefore didn't get it. But the sort of, funny part to me is like his daughter got mumps, and so he took a swab from her throat, went into the lab, and invented a mumps vaccine. Many of the childhood diseases that we don't have today are thanks to one guy. Like measles, mumps, rubella, all these vaccines all come from the same person. And that to me is an astonishing achievement. The smallpox vaccine was created because they noticed that there was one group of people in society who were actually very good looking, and that was milkmaids. And they said that the maids who milk the cows have beautiful skin. And they said, why do they have such lovely skin? And everybody else has these scars from smallpox. And it turned out that's because the milkmaids working with cows were catching cowpox, and cowpox protected against smallpox. And cowpox being very harmless, meant they had beautiful skin, they survived, they did great. And so what they did was they basically injected people with this cow virus, and then that protected them against smallpox. So the word vaccine comes from the Latin vash, which is for cow.